Welcome to Ciao Bella, hosted by me, Erica Firpo, a travel journalist based in Rome. Each episode of Ciao Bella, I sit down with Italy's creators, contemporary artists and artisans, designers, culinary experts, heritage brands, and innovative aesthetes, and more who are defining and redefining 21st century Italy. Pull up a chair and join in. Welcome back to Ciao Bella, and welcome back to Italy. Today, I'm really excited because I get to introduce all of you to Susan Van Allen, if you don't know her already. Susan is a playwright, a screenwriter, and author, but more importantly, she is probably, I think, the biggest Italophile, if that's what we want to call it. She loves Italy and has written some amazing books about it, including 100 Places in Italy Every Woman Should Go. Susan, welcome to Ciao Bella.
Oh, ciao Bella, wonderful to see you again.
I'm so happy. You know, it's so funny. I met you. I just remember when I met you, I loved your smile and you were super sweet. And I've been following you ever since that fateful afternoon at the Hotel de Russie.
Wasn't that amazing? Because I had been a fan of yours also, and you were there with Arlene.
I was with Arlene Gibbs.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Who was on Ciao Bella as well.
It was amazing. And it was my first time at the Russier, and I had just arrived and I went to the great spa there, and then I ended up putting it in my 100 Places in Italy Every Woman Should Go book.
And in fact, I think you were working on your book when you were there. Is that possible?
Yes. Maybe another edition of it. But anyway, that was great. I'm glad we even took a picture of it. Maybe I can find that and send it back to you.
Well, I might have a picture. And, you know, I wanted to tell everyone, in spite of her name, Susan Van Allen, that to me sounds like Dynasty. I think it's an awesome name. You are Italian.
Yes, on my mother's side. And it overshadowed the whole Van side. But my father was, his mother was actually from Ireland. And then the other side, his paternal side, went back American, but my mother's side was from, my grandmother was from Molise, my papa was from Potenza, and their dining room table in Newark, New Jersey was the Italian-American dream scene, where they were so proud to have their heritage celebrated at Sunday dinners with the aunts and the pastas and all the opera in the background. And that's where I really fell in love with Italy, at a dining room table in Newark, New Jersey.
Well, it seems like that dining room table inspired you in so many ways for the many facets of your career, of your, not even career, because it's like, maybe I should say the many careers, the many directions that you've gone. You know, I know that you wrote a play. I know that you were one of the writers on Everybody Loves Raymond, which is very Italian-American.
Yes, it was. And then the first episode I ever wrote for television for that show was called Marie's Meatballs. And it was about Marie, the mother-in-law, who's making meatballs, and then Ray's wife, who wasn't Italian, wanting to learn how, and she just really couldn't get it right. And as it turned out, Marie was holding back on the recipe, which is very Italian, I think.
So where are you today? What city will we find you in?
I am in Hollywood, California, where I began living when I started writing for television. I'm originally from, I'll say, West Long Branch, New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore. But I'm in Hollywood, and, I'm looking forward to getting back to Italy as soon as it's safe and open and all of that. And in the meantime, I've been enjoying, taking long walks, in some ways, Hollywood, the foothills where I live, with the palm trees and the cypress trees and the blue skies and the bougainvillea this time of year reminds me of Italy.
So, Susan, I want to know how one goes from Los Angeles and writing for television to 100 Places in Italy Every Woman Should Go.
Well, it all goes back to my passion for Italy, where I first went there in 1976 and just so fell in love with it. And so every time that I had vacation time and the money, I would travel to Italy. And was first, going to the roots, seeing my relatives who actually lived in Eure, outside of Rome. They were originally from Potenza, um, and I kept going back, and then as television writing in the early 2000s became a little bit less, and I started writing for newspapers, travel sections when they had them, and magazines. And I really started to explore Italian travel. And as I did, the people who enjoyed it, I was interested in my readers. And when I went to Italy, I realized there were so many women there that told me Italy feels like home, and they weren't Italian American. It was like Betsy Jones and Louise Wright. And I realized that Italy has this thing, especially for women, that feels very welcoming and embracing, like, oh, this country understands us. And I came up with the theory, landing and seeing all the Venuses, the goddess of love and beauty, and the Madonna, mother of compassion, that we just feel like, wow, the feminine is really celebrated in Italy. And of course everyone loves their mama. And so that's where 100 Places in Italy, Every Woman Should Go came from.
Now, it's not just a book anymore. From what I mean, I feel like, I know it is a book, but it's not just a book, because you've spawned it into, well, 3 other books, but also tours.
Yes. Well, what happened was when I went on book tours for 100 Places in Italy, Every Woman Should Go, women started raising their hands and saying, take me with you.
That's what I would do. I'd be like, I want to go to all these 100 places with you.
Yeah, I want to go with the girl who knows. And I resisted it for 3 years because it baffled me. I mean, I'm very bossy when it comes to Italian travel, actually, with my friends and with my family, like making the lists, don't go here, don't order pizza in Venice, that kind of thing. So finally, I decided, well, I've got to give this a try. I mean, it was just too strong of a pull. And it has become, for the past almost 9 years, well, we had to skip this year, sadly. But what's wonderful is that women come, they love having these inside experience. They love the style of slow travel. Like, we'll stay in Venice for 6 nights. Who does that? And they love the personal touch of meeting the chefs and meeting the artisans, and they come back year after year. And I get a lot of solo travelers that meet other women, and then they meet again on another golden week. So it's been so much fun and really so fulfilling, and an extension of my writing, where I see, like, oh my gosh, I can see this really in action. So it's great.
Well, you go to Sicily, you go to Venice, you go to the lake area, and you go to like the Costiera Malfitana, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, based in Sorrento. That was pretty much the first one that I did, and it seems to be the one that sells like hot pasta.
Mm.
But all of them are
like hot pasta. Yeah. That's really cute. So I'm going to say that I've never said that before. I'm going to steal that from you. I have a question. Well, first of all, I love that they're called Golden Weeks. I think that's great. And it's all women travel, correct? I mean, it's women only.
It's women only, and women really enjoy it. Some are coming for the first time to Italy on their own. Others have come before with husbands or boyfriends, and they enjoy the women only week. I mean, of course, there's plenty of men around to flirt with us and treat us wonderfully, and we enjoy that too.
Now I have a question. 100 places. There's also 50 places in Rome, Florence, and Venice every woman should go. I want you to give me 5 off the top of your head. 5 places, Erica.
Oh my gosh!
I didn't tell you I was going to do that.
No, you didn't tell me I was. But okay, this is like what I'm writing about now. I love, and it's so not visited, the Barberini, Palazzo Barberini in Rome, which is also the National Gallery of Art. When you want to get away from the crowds in Rome, go to an air-conditioned museum, I say,
Exactly.
right? And that one, it was used as a set in Roman Holiday, where Audrey Hepburn lived as the princess, and the art in there is amazing. You have Caravaggio and Raphael, you have the paintings on the ceilings.
Pietro da Cortona. Yeah, that
Oh
is.
my gosh, I think it's so amazing. Okay, one. Two, I recently wrote about the Villa Oplontis, which is in between Herculaneum and Pompeii. And it
You're after
was
my husband's heart right there. You know that.
Yes, I do. And it was also buried in the 79 AD eruption. And it has, UNESCO says, the most wonderfully preserved wall paintings of that Roman period. It's absolutely astounding and also so rarely visited. I'm also thinking of, I don't know why this is coming to me, Sicily. I love, everybody thinks of Sicily kind of rough and tumble, but the Baroque in Sicily is so, Sicilians do things on a big, exuberant scale, and the Baroque, like the town of Noto in
Mm.
Sicily, is so beautiful. They call it like a sculpture garden. It's just so great. And of course, I love Venice, and I take women to the Peggy Guggenheim Museum and tell the story of this wonderful expat who bought modern, it supported modern art, and the museum is what was once her home. So I'm up to four. What am I going to say in Florence? I don't know, what comes to me is Vestri chocolate in Florence. Who is
Oh,
Leonardo Vestri, a bello, a really handsome chocolate maker. I just
that's not a.
love.
I wasn't even expecting chocolate, and not
I
even a
was
chocolate maker, a handsome chocolate maker. This is
a
like,
handsome
ah.
chocolate maker, yes. So those are five. It kind of shows the span of places that I love.
So one of the things that when I was talking to you earlier that I love about you is I too am an East Coast Italian American girl. I also lived in Los Angeles, and I was just so I'm going to quickly tell you because I don't think I mentioned this to you. When I lived in Los Angeles, I kind of refused to go to anything that was Italian because I grew up with Italians. I'm coming to Italy all the time because of my family, and I was like, no, Los Angeles and Italians, like, there's no good Italian restaurant, none of it. And when I was talking to you, like, there's this whole Italian culture, and I was like, what are you talking about? So I want to talk with you about Italy and Los Angeles.
Yes, Erica, I am with you. I mean, I started my California adventure actually in San Francisco, where there
Ah,
is definitely, people may know, the North Beach Italian American neighborhood. And, we had our pre-conversation, and it inspired me to think about and to look into, what about these Italians in California? So they did come, many of them first came, of course, to Ellis Island, and I think, and they came in that period of time where 14 million Italians immigrated during like the 1880 to about 1920. About a third of the population of Italy immigrated away, and many of them came uh, to San Francisco because LA was nothing at the time. There was no business.
no, it was
You know,
literally the edge of the world, the Wild West.
right, right. But I love, one of the stories that I loved finding was of Ghirardelli, who Domenica Ghirardelli. We know the famous chocolate in San
Yeah.
Francisco. Okay, he came from Rapallo,
Huh.
in Liguria. And he actually apprenticed at a chocolate shop in Genova that I know, Romanengo. Have you ever been? It's in the old Carugi of Genova. It's a wonderful chocolate shop. But he first went to South America, and then he actually came early in 1849 to Stockton, California during the gold rush, and sold candy to the gold miners. And Ghirardelli became this huge chocolate company. And also up in there was Giannini. Amedeo Giannini, who started the Bank of America, and his family was Genovese. So when I was in San Francisco, there was all this Genovese, Lucchese. It was like in the 80s, and I'd never had pesto before. I went to San Francisco because I was raised on the red sauce, Italian American. So then we go to there was a Little Italy in Los Angeles. People started coming around
Where?
1900. It was downtown. It was downtown near Union Station. There was actually, they started coming and they got into farming and fishing. A lot of fishermen, especially in San Pedro, which is southern Los Angeles. Lots of immigrants from Sicily and also from Ischia, where you just were.
Oh my God, that's a big surprise. I had no idea.
Yes, and in fact, San Pedro is putting together a Little Italy, a piazza and everything that was supposed to open at the end of 2019, but in 2020. And the sister city of San Pedro is Ischia.
No, is that why you knew that the Bagnino at the Mezzatore is from San Pedro, is from East? I mean,
yes. Did you meet Giorgio?
No, I got the message after I left, and it's crazy. But that's I had no idea of the connection with, a little island like Ischia and San Pedro. That's crazy.
Right. Yes, it was a huge, they worked for the canneries. That's where Chicken of the Sea was in San Diego. And
wait. Oh, that's crazy too.
Yeah. Olio del Mare. No, it was actually, but Italians didn't start the company, but boy, did they support it in the work that they did of the tuna canning and tuna fishing in San Diego, that whole southern coast. So there was an Italian American hall built in 1908 in downtown Little Italy. It is now a museum, Italian American Museum that just opened a few years ago, and so it's full of costumes and a lot of photographs that tell the history of Italian Americans in southern Italy. There's also a church down there, St. Peter's, that was started mostly by the Barese, who had their Madonna saint, and they would do processions. But there is still a mass in Italian at St. Peter's Church in downtown.
I had no idea. No idea.
Yeah, and they have a church hall there, and I started going. They have a Italian American Federation that was like the umbrella organization of about 70 different Italian American organizations: Sons of Italy, Italian American Lawyers, Italian Women of Italy. I mean, it was really, really strong. This starting from the hall that would take in the immigrants. I mean, we have to think 1908, there was no unemployment insurance. There was no, for health insurance, just for immigrants first coming. They helped them out a lot, financially and with education. There was an orphanage downtown started by Mother Cabrini, etc. And of course, we'll think of the great vineyards of California. I mean, Gallo was actually that family was from Piedmont. Mm-hmm. And Mondavi was from Le Marche. So Italian wineries, that tradition came to California. Why not? And then there were people like Frank Capra, whose family was from Bisaquina, Sicily. He was a famous director, and he said he was raised in the Italian ghetto, which was downtown Los Angeles.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he came over in 1902 when he was 5 years old, and he ended up directing Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, movies that celebrate the American dream. Really great. Yeah. But we want to talk about, I think the thing that I found missing coming to LA was Italian food, right?
For sure.
Right. So It's a really interesting story about how, I mean, there were the red sauce restaurants that got established with like Frank Sinatra needed, his
Right.
Sunday sauce. So he actually he had a friend from Hoboken, Matteo Giordano, who was birthed by, Frank Sinatra's mother was a midwife. And he grew up with this guy, Matteo Giordano, and set him up with a restaurant in Westwood called Matteo's. Now,
Yeah.
Matteo's in Westwood. I mean, it was the red booth, red sauce kind of place. It's changed hands since Matteo Giordano died, and it's changed a little bit. It's still a little old school, but for old school now, there's a Rayo's that opened about 10 years ago in Hollywood. And you could go there and be met by Johnny Roast Beef, who was Martin Scorsese discovered him at Rayo's in New York. And and he was in Goodfellas. And they serve a good chicken scarapiello, the lemon chicken that's real Italian American. And on Sundays, Sunday only, you can go there and you could get a really good ragu that's made with short rib and sausage, and it's a very lively, kind of an industry place. But also in LA, Wolfgang Puck was the big like culinary force for modern Los Angeles restaurants, like in the 80s and the 70s. But there was the famous restaurant Valentino.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
Was that in Century City?
It was a weird location. It was actually in Santa Monica on Pico near the freeway. Right?
Yes.
And it was started by Piero Selvaggio, who was from Modica. And he came to Los Angeles in like the late 60s because his uncle was working at Chasen's, and he had never been to a restaurant before. Modica is one of the Baroque towns now in Sicily that's famous for Don Serafino, Michelin star restaurant. When he grew up there were no restaurants, So he came to Los Angeles, worked as a busboy in Chasen's, and then got the wherewithal to do this restaurant, Valentino, named after Rudolph Valentino. Because,
of course, it's Hollywood.
Right, it was Hollywood. And it actually got good reviews in the beginning, even though he admits today, like, the food wasn't that great. But people loved coming because he was this great personality. And the people that came in the early 70s pulled him aside and said, like, you got to get better food. And he went to Italy, and he went to Milan, and for the first time, he tasted truffles. And he traveled around Italy, and he came back more in the later 70s and bought Italian chefs. And this restaurant became rated as the best Italian restaurant in America.
Wow.
I mean, it was the spot in the 80s and 90s, and it was expensive, and it was white tablecloths, and like Sophia Loren went there, and presidents, and it was amazing. He was famous for his wine list. He had one of the biggest wine cellars in the country. And it was the place to go. And that was happening in the 80s and 90s. And also there was a tiny place on Melrose, I bet you knew it, Angeli Cafe.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. Evan Kleinman, who had a great passion for Italian food, would do pizzas and panini, and it was the rustic Italian food that people really, really caught on to. So that was the birth of it. And also, along with, after Piero Selvaggio, there was a great chef, Celestino Drago, and he was from Messina, Sicily. And
it's all Sicilians, I see.
Yes, it's true. And he came and opened Drago in the 1990s. And it was,
oh my God, I forgot about that restaurant.
Wasn't that a good restaurant? It was introducing Americans, to taking them away from the red sauce idea and more refinement. And he's just a wonderful personality. His brothers came over, and Drago is now an empire. He has a place downtown. And Piero Selvaggio from Valentino retired, and now he works front of house for Drago in the downtown Drago Centro, which is beautiful, beautiful place. But there is also a whole new breed of this pizza, pasta, gelato entrepreneurs coming from Italy, young people. The pizza empire. Well, Nancy Silverton, we have to mention. I don't know if you knew when you were here, Mozza Pizzeria.
Yeah.
Yes, she was inspired by Campo de Fiori's Il Forno.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes,
because as an East Coaster, I'm going to say one thing.
Yes,
I could not stand LA pizza. It was really tough for me. And then as an Italian, I was like, there is no pizza here. And then Mozza.
Exactly. Yes, and so she started Mozza Pizzeria by really studying the dough that she had loved from the Forno. She also lives or has a place in Umbria that she goes to on vacation, a house. Anyway, she partnered with Joe Bastianich on that venture.
That's right.
Right. So that was when pizza started to get good. I think that you had left by then in LA. But the one who has come now from Napoli is Daniele Uditi. You know him?
I know the name, yes. I've never seen his pizza though.
Yes, it's called Pizzana, and Jonathan Gold, the late great Jonathan Gold of the LA Weekly.
I loved him.
Yes, he declared his pizza the best in the world. And Jonathan had eaten at, the place in Naples, outside Naples, Caiazzo, Franco Pepe's place, and said, there's something about Daniele Uditi. And I have to say, it is incredible. Even though he's from Napoli, he had an aunt in Caserta who was a very good baker. And he says that there he kind of strayed away from that soupy middle Napolitan. He even worked at Don Michele and decided that he liked his dough just a little bit firmer, that you could pick up. And so his Pizzana, there were lines out the door. It opened in 2017, is puffy and airy and crisper than the Neapolitan pizza. And he also has the oven that's made by Stefano Ferrara, who's famous for the best pizza ovens, Neapolitan pizza ovens. And so he's a humble guy, and he has made my experience in Los Angeles of pizza just absolutely extraordinary. And then can we talk a little bit about the pasta people too?
Of course.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the pasta people. This has become a huge thing in the past few years. There is Evan Fonke, who has a book that was co-written by Rome's Italian-American Katie Parla. And he became obsessed with making pasta, went for 2 years to study in Bologna, and opened, he had worked at Spago for Wolfgang Puck, but then he came back and on his own, with support from people who loved what he was doing, he opened Felix in Santa Monica, which serves wonderful, like 10 different kinds of pasta. And he is hailed as one of the world's best pasta makers. He does the little tortellini and all that. And also in Santa Monica, there's a cool restaurant opened by Mario Sabatini, who was from Abruzzo and studied at Villa Santa Maria, which is one of the biggest cooking schools in Italy, right? And he came to Santa Monica and opened a restaurant called Forma. And he talks about this, and it specializes in cheeses. There's a cheese bar, but also he makes the cheese in the wheel, which he
Huh.
calls dalla forma, and he makes the pastas in the wheel. So he'll make cacio e pepe, in the wheel of pecorino
Oh, nice.
cheese. Yeah,
Right.
great, great. And then finally, there is Rosso Blu, which is in downtown LA. Steve Sampson, who worked for Piero Salvaggio,
Huh.
bought in another Bolognese. Well, actually, it was from Puglia. Stefano Allegro, who is a Sfogliino Superiore from Bologna. Steve Sampson went to Bologna and met him. And Steve Sampson's family is actually, on his mother's side, is Bolognese, and Stefano does I've watched him downstairs from the restaurant Rosso Blu, which is named for the Bolognese soccer team, the nickname for the Bolognese soccer team. And I mean, he does that amazing thing where in 5 minutes he will roll out a sheet that then he can flip into the air and you could see through. And the pasta at Rosso Blu is extraordinary, and the Bolognese there is Usai. So there is. Yeah,
I'm just looking on their
here.
website. I'm just looking on their website. I mean, the space looks gorgeous. What I find amazing, is when I lived in Los Angeles, it was not really like that. There was Valentino. I think Valentino's was still there, and there was
Right.
Ago, and there was like Giorgio Baldi. And that was
Right.
and then my friend Vito had a pizzeria, and that was like the experience. And one day I was driving down the 10 to work. I lived kind of near where you are, in Hollywood, but I worked in Malibu. And so I was going on the 10 before I got on the PCH, and I had a little problem with my tire. So I pulled over and I went to my, like, kind of near where that school crossroads is.
Oh, yes.
There's like a bunch of little side streets that are like warehouses, and a lot of mechanics are there.
Right.
So my mechanic was there because I had this old car, and I went over to see him. And so I bring my car over, and he's like, it's going to be like an hour. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, well, there's like this little, he's like, in the warehouse next to me, there's like a little shop. It's an Italian shop. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, go and say hi to them. So I went over, and it was like, it was a small warehouse, no windows, nothing. And it had shelves full of like yogi juice, the little juices you get at
Right.
And and just like it had like San Carlo chips, and I'm like looking around, and I was like, or maybe they weren't San Carlo, but the Italian chips that maybe it was Crick and Crock, I don't know. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's so weird. It's like going to an Italian bar. So
Right.
I started talking to the guy there. We're talking Italian, and he's like, and we're just chatting, and then all of a sudden he's like, do you like burrata? And I was like, I do, but I don't eat burrata in the US because it's not here, because it's like, it has to be fresh and all that, right? And he's like, listen, he's like, we get it. And he's like, and when we get it, he's like, if you give me your phone number, I'll call you. And if you come and get it right away, he's like, you will be one of the first. He's like, we're the only people that get it. We get it. It's like literally off the boat, but it's off the airplane. It's like this secret Italian club. And he starts naming all these like Italian actors that were on the list. And I was like, okay, whatever. So one morning I get this call at 6, and it's like, Erika, vieni qua ora. And I'm like, what? And he's like, come to Santa Monica right now. And I'm like, he's like, I've got the burrata. And that was like when I was like, okay, like I have a glimpse of Italy right now.
Right. I know. I remember that place. Oh,
but all these amazing restaurants, they weren't really happening yet. So this is incredible.
Right. And Italy opened. So I no longer have to have the experience as I did in 2004, coming home from Genova with my salami packed in my pantyhose. And
you sound like my nonna would do that. She'd put it in her bra. She's like, I look abundante this way. I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God. No, it was packed in my carry-on suit, not a carry, but probably in my check suitcase. And I thought, I'm just going to wrap it up in my pantyhose. And at Kennedy Airport, which is where we stopped back from Genoa, 3 dogs immediately were on it. And then I had the experience of standing there at Kennedy with them opening my bag and peeling the pantyhose off the salami.
No, did they take it?
Yes, and then they took it, and I saw them heading toward a garbage can, and that was the saddest part. I was screaming, "Give it to her!" I was pointing to the, TSA person or whatever, like, "Do not throw it away. It's delicious."
Speaking of salami, and I'm going to tie it back to what we started talking about with San Francisco. Did you ever have, what's this? There's like that famous salami from San Francisco. Oh, what's
Right,
it called?
Molinari.
Is that what it's called? Yeah, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because my dad grew up in San Francisco, Italian American,
Wow.
Genovese family.
Yes.
And everybody knew everybody else, especially if you were Genovese. And that was like everybody was like, when we go to Italy and we come back and they're like, yeah, but the salami's better here. And we go down to North Beach or wherever it was, and we got it, and it was like, and we had to tell everybody, yes, you are right, it is better here.
It is great. I mean, some of that Molinari delicatessen and still exists, and you could get a great, sandwich there.
So I know you do these incredible golden weeks in Italy, and I can't wait for you to come back and I can see you, and I'll follow you around. But I do think it could be kind of fun next time I'm in LA and you're there. We could do it like a mini golden weekend, just eating Italian food and seeing what it's like going Italian in Los Angeles.
Right. And when you mentioned Malibu, we can't forget, the Getty Villa is there, which
I've never been. I've not been to the new, not since it reopened. And I really want to go.
Yes. I mean, it is really fantastic. I can't wait to get back there now that it's open.
How about there's that house? So it's in Hollywood. It's like maybe on 3rd Street, and it's below you. Oops, my dog says hi.
With all the David.
Yes. We got to bring that up. If we're going to talk about the Getty Villa, then we have to talk about that house.
Yes, but that was sold and they were taken down.
No.
There was always that experience of driving by and thinking about that guy. Right. Yeah,
I loved it because it was just a little Italy, about, I don't know how many Davids he had, like 10.
Yeah, just all across the top. I mean, but that's what, we said this before, that we love about Los Angeles. It's so open and welcoming to creative spirits. And so many Italians have come here, and, they love it for the weather. They love it for all the farmlands and the fresh ingredients. And they love it for this open spirit that it has.
Well, speaking of open spirits, I have another question for you.
Yes.
When you come back to Rome, when you come back to Italy, what are the 3 dishes you need to have, or the 3 food, whatever? What are like the 3 things you're like, okay? I mean, I know we talked about great restaurants in Los Angeles, but what are you missing?
Oh, cacio e pepe. I don't think I want to go to Armando Pantheon and have that. And, just the cornetto con albicocca marmellata. I would love to. Yes. Like warm. We can't get good cornetto here with the
albicocca.
Yes, that's my favorite. And what else am I thinking? The really great, the pesto from, in Genoa. At Genovese, Roberto makes that. I mean, it's unbeatable. No matter what happens here, it's the pesto's different. Those tiny leaves in Genova. Fantastic.
It's so funny. I feel like pesto, like pasta con pesto, is like the most underrated, and I forget about it, and it's like a sleeper dish in my opinion. Pesto is like a sleeper ingredient that when, like, if I forget about it, and then all of a sudden it'll come to mind, and I'll get fresh pesto, and I'm like, wait a minute, how come I haven't been eating this every single day?
Oh, so good. And then I think about bacalao mantecato.
Oh my God, that's one of my favorite things. Yes, it's like, how do we call it? Creamed cod. It is so good. I love all the ciccheteria in Venice specifically. I could eat bacalao.
I would go to
every
Cantonone di Schiavi. There are places that I know I'm just going to get off the plane and run directly to certain spots. Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing you when you come back to Italy, but I'd love for you to share with everyone where they can find out, where they can find your books, where they can find your articles, where they can find you.
Me, just SusanVanAllen.com.
Perfect. And I know you write for tons of magazines.
Right. I'm doing something for BBC Travel now about, the Appian Way Archaeological Parco, actually.
And that's just around the corner. Such a great place.
Right. People just, I really want to promote people staying a little longer in one place in Italy. And, when in Rome, get out to the Appian Way, see, go to the Osteria Antica Roma and get some nice quiet time out there. It's just beautiful.
We love it. We like to ride bikes out there, and
yes.
we always laugh because inevitably we're in the sheep traffic jam.
Yeah,
because the shepherds come walking and all of a sudden you're literally in a sheep traffic jam. It's so funny.
It's so amazing. And you're 10 minutes away from, Rome with, the traffic jam. It's the countryside is so close.
I mean, I think is one of the beautiful things about Italy. And actually in particular, one of the things I love about Rome is, it's the oldest city, but it's a contemporary city. So it's got, all the trappings of a contemporary city-ish kind of, we've got buses and congestion and chaos. But we still have the shepherds that bring fresh ricotta every single morning to certain salumeria. I mean, it's just like, right. and there's still shepherds that are roaming those areas. Like I love that. And actually that reminds me, I think tomorrow I want to get some fresh ricotta. Good. I'm going to write that down.
Oh gosh.
With a little bit of honey. Just a nice a light breakfast.
Oh my gosh. It is so amazing. I gotta say. And your show, you're helping me through this being away from Italy time. I'm so enjoying on my walks through the Hollywood Hills, looking up at the palm and cypress trees and listening to you talk about Sant'Eustachio and all these great places. So thank you.
Well, I'm so glad that you could share all your great places with us. So thank you so much for joining me on Ciao Bella. And everybody, take a look at her website, Susan Van Allen, SusanVanAllen.com. I can't believe I just did that off the top of my head.
Oh, great.
And I didn't usually I'm a tongue twister. I trip over everything. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Erika. Ciao,
and I'll see you in Rome. Ciao.
Ciao, Bella.
Hey, thanks for listening. You can follow Susan Van Allen on Instagram at Suz Van Allen, SuZVanAllen, and catch up with her on her latest books and tours on www.susanvanallen.com. Thanks. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ciao Bella. If you'd like to know more about today's guest, please visit ciaobella.co and click on the podcast link, or go directly to ciaobella.co/podcast. Want more Italy? You can find all my episodes on iTunes and Spotify and Stitcher. When you have time, subscribe to iTunes and rate the podcast. What are you waiting for? And if you want to be part of the podcast, email me or DM me your Italy questions. To learn more about me and my work, go to my website, ericafirpo.com, and follow my Italy adventures on Instagram at ericafirpo. Ciao, Bella! And a very big thank you and hug to Massimiliano Yonta and Dis to Dis Studios, the producers of Ciao Bella, who continue to make me sound and feel great.